We're good? We're good to go? Okay. Hello. Happy New Year, I think. I'm gonna cut that out. Cut. I just got back from Mexico and had a really great time with my best friend Cecilia. We took this trip together last year for the first time and really found that we needed it in December, like we needed to get away. So we recreated the experience and I'm very grateful for it. It was a wonderful trip, and at the same time, I was in mourning throughout the trip. So I wanted to come on here to kind of explain where things are right now and why this video is appearing today and what to expect in terms of future vlog chapters. This one is not really a chapter per se, like it's not a chapter in my life. So I'm calling it an interlude. And the purpose of this interlude is in part to have a little space to reflect on the new year, or really reflect on the old year in anticipation of the new year. This year, 2024, has been probably the most difficult year of my adult life, and I didn't see it coming in the way that it did. Part of it has been work, which you've seen some of it on the vlog. I'm fortunate enough, and this part you haven't seen yet, but I'm fortunate enough that I was appointed the director of an institute on campus, and I also received a chair position. And all of this happened after I got tenure, or right before I got tenure, but everything became official after I got tenure. And those new responsibilities are a lot of fun, but they also come with significant challenges for the kind of work that I do in a state like Florida right now. So you haven't seen that stuff show up yet on the vlog, but it's coming. So that was one of the reasons why it was a difficult year. But the other reason that it's been one of the most difficult years is the amount of heartbreak I've dealt with this year, and that I'm still dealing with, which is why I was in mourning in the Mexico trip. So right now, I believe the most recent vlog was chapter 7. So you've seen Dexter meet my family. And as I mentioned in one of those vlogs, this is only the second time I've introduced someone to them, which was really significant and important for me. And then you get to see sort of the next day, there's stuff that you don't see though. And there's a lot more to come because all of this happened back in June. So I'm posting, publishing these vlogs 5 to 6 months after the stuff happens. So there's a lot that happens in between what you just saw in chapter 7 and what you will see when the vlogs from this time of year, the end of 2024, come out. And to kind of rip the Band-Aid off, Dexter and I are not together anymore. And so I'm single again. Didn't see that coming at all this year. I am in mourning, and it's not easy. And oftentimes with these kinds of things, social media content, a lot of what gets produced is all the stuff that looks good. And I'm not a really good faker. A lot of my face shows a lot. It's a very expressive face. It doesn't always express exactly what I'm thinking, but it is a very expressive face. I had a student, towards the end of the semester, I felt a little tickle in my throat, so I just was wearing my mask to class. And one of the students was talking to me about something, and they were just like, you know what? It's actually hard to talk to you with the mask on because your face does a lot of work in a conversation. So I'm really not good at faking things or hiding things. I grew up as something of a perfectionist, or if not a perfectionist, someone who who really hid a lot, and I grew out of that. I am, like everyone else, I still mask. There are times when I'm not happy that I, put on good energy for other people. There are times when I don't want to be kind that I push into kindness, and and I think there's a difference between like faking or being fake versus the kind of masking that we learn as an adaptation to showing up for other people even when you don't want to. And so there's a lot that there's just a lot that I show that maybe years ago I wouldn't have shown. And by maybe I mean absolutely would not have shown. It's actually striking to me that I'm even doing a vlog, because I don't love I struggle with the idea of having my personal life public in this way, which is why I think it was a lot easier for me to start the vlog by focusing on the work and the professional side, and part of why maybe I conceived of the vlog as being this showing of work and life, so that I could kind of retreat back into the work side of things. And there are other reasons why I wanted to show work too, which is I'm Black, pansexual, young-ish, I look younger than I am, professor, and I didn't have anything that looked like that when I was young. It feels right to kind of show it in this way. So anyway, that's a long intro, and I didn't plan on the intro being that long because I want to move into something else, but I wanted to give you that context and just say there's a lot that has happened between chapter 7 and what will be the end of year vlogs about 4 or 5 months from now. And it's been hard for me, especially with these past 2 vlogs, to even go through the process of editing them and putting them on, because you're seeing all of the joy that was happening in June, and I am doing the work of reviewing and editing and reliving all of that at the end of the year when all of that is no longer the case. And so it's been difficult, but here we are. So anyway, I wanted to say that we will get to chapter 8. I don't know if it'll be 1 week from now, which would make it 2 weeks since chapter 7, but I feel like I might want a little bit of a break after recording this one. So we'll see, but chapter 8 will be coming soon. Relationshiping and friendshipping, and my birthday weekend comes up. So that one's gonna be fun. Whenever chapter 8 or 9, when we get to my birthday weekend, I think you're gonna get lots of good laughs out of that. But anyway, so part 2 of this video, the intro is so long. Part 2 of this video is when I started the year, in January, started writing lessons that I had learned from that month onto the big mirror in my bedroom. So I started writing these lessons, and I'm gonna walk through them relatively quickly, but also provide a little bit of context for what happened during these times. So January, the lesson was trust your intuition, which as we go down this list, it's actually a harder lesson than I thought it would be for me to learn. And the reason why this happened is because I had a relationship in my life at the end of last year that I felt very deeply betrayed and hurt by that person. And my intuition told me, like, let it go. Before it happened, let it go. Let this relationship go, let this person go. And I didn't trust my intuition, and I didn't follow it because I didn't want to cause harm to that person. But that holding on ended up hurting the both of us. And that was my first lesson of the year. Trust your intuition. Now, here's the hard thing that I wouldn't learn until later about trusting my intuition, which is it's easy to say it, But the reality is, if you're coming to a place in your life where you have to teach yourself the lesson to trust your intuition, that means there is a very deep level of distrust that you have in yourself. And I wouldn't realize how deeply I distrusted myself until much later in the year. And we'll get to the intuition thing later. February was celebrate every moment. February was a fantastic month in a lot of ways. It was difficult, but my book came out. So at publication date and like great times with friends and family, and eventually the book launch that we did, and I was giving talks about the book, and also Dexter was back in my life. And he got to meet my best friend Malcolm. We took a beautiful trip to Houston, and right before I had to start doing all the book tour stuff, and I just really, someone said to me, it might have been Elizabeth, was like, you have to celebrate every moment. And I was like, that is such a great lesson, because there are so many things that were difficult for me to get through in January that I wasn't celebrating every moment. I was letting moments go by without realizing. Learning to celebrate myself was a really important lesson, and one that I'm still learning. March, the lesson for March was balancing is a process, not a destination. And this is when things really started to hit the fan. Work was demanding. It was demanding a lot. And this was before I got the new roles, but I was somewhat of an apprentice at this point. And I was traveling to give the book talks and the this and the that. And I live here in Tampa, and he lives out there in the Orlando area. And so the traveling back and forth and trying to make time and also maintain, to me, what are really important relationships with my friends, it just, it threw me way off in a way that I didn't fully anticipate. And I also started doing, I think by this point, yeah, I'd started seeing my therapist. Hey, Connie. And I had been asking her to kind of help me. Like, I specifically started going because I knew that things were going to start getting more difficult in terms of balancing. And so I wanted to connect with her for that. And I didn't realize that personal relationship stuff was gonna be a part of that. But anyway, balancing is a process, not a destination, because there were in some ways expectations from other people that I would just be able to balance. And it's like, sometimes it's 60-40, and sometimes it's 70-30, and it looks like it's off balance, but really expecting to be able to give 100 to every area of your life, or expecting to be able to divide everything equally across your life, 10%, 10%, 10% there, it just doesn't work. And it can't be consistent. Like, you can't do that consistently without really sacrificing in areas that cause harm. And unfortunately, not everyone in my life understood that I was working to maintain balance. But because balance didn't look the way that they wanted it to look, it caused issues. And so that was difficult. That was a difficult month. Then we got to April, and April was face your fears. And I'm trying to remember what the context of this lesson was, and I'm not sure that I do anymore. But I was afraid of something, and I told myself in that month that I had to face my fears. And I've learned a lot more since then about what my various fears are, including not being validated. Thank you again, Connie, for reading me absolutely to filth by telling me about who I am. But face your fears. And that is easier said than done, and it's often sometimes difficult to even recognize what our fears are. We can hide the fact that we're afraid, and also we can hide from ourselves what we're afraid of. I know that I certainly have. May was say no when you need to, and this is the end of the semester now. The challenges I have been facing in March with balancing in April with my fears in May really came to a head. End of the semester, but I was helping out with this Maymester course and then also planning my research trips, which are the first vlogs that you see on here. And so I was constantly on the move and constantly exhausted. It's one of the things that I say repeatedly in those first vlogs, like, I'm so tired. I wasn't saying no to certain things, and I'm still not all the time saying no to things that I should be saying no to, but because for example, I have, I think, 4 students on my docket. Like, I'm not teaching any classes next semester, but I have 4 students on my docket who want to do independent research or internships, and I agreed to supervise them. It feels difficult to say no to them, even though I know that I don't have as much time. So something's gonna have to give somewhere else, and that is a struggle for me. It continues to be a struggle. I need to revisit the lesson to say no when I need to. The lesson for June was rest is intentional. And I don't need to go into details about that. You've seen it in the first couple of vlogs. I was ripping and running. I needed to figure out when and how to rest. But I will say this, actually. One of the challenges that I had at that point was I wanted to be able to, I had plans for how to rest. I'm very good at resting. I'm an introvert who spends a lot of time recharging, and I know how to do it because I've had to learn how to do it. The challenge was I was also in a romantic relationship where when it was time for me to come back from all of the traveling and the working and the researching, I needed that to be a space of rest. And that doesn't mean not doing anything. It doesn't mean just laying on the couch, but it meant having my partner trust that I was doing everything that I could. And when I finally was able to be there, right? This is that balancing act. When I finally was able to be there, trusting that that is exactly where I wanted to be, even when I wasn't. And so instead of being able to rest when I returned from these long trips and the work and building new relationships, professional relationships, networking, not being able to come home and rest. And by home, I don't mean my physical home. I mean my relationship as my home. That was a challenge. And this is not to villainize him at all. There were things that he needed from the relationship that I was unable to give because of my because my 100% was not enough to fill his cup. July. So July, I had a beautiful time celebrating my birthday with my friends. And then things went haywire in the relationship. And I will not go into the details of it, but the lesson that I learned in July was love is beautiful. Love is also sad. And I'm just gonna I'm gonna spend some time on this one, but I'm gonna hope to keep it brief. I had rented out a house down in Fort Myers. I had all my friends come down to spend the weekend. And I walked into one of the bathrooms in the house, And the way they had their mirror set up in a really weird, not weird way, they just had the mirror set up on two walls that are like a corner. So there's one mirror here and there's one mirror here, and then there's like a gap in the corner. And I remember feeling really weird about the space because you could see half of your face in one of them, but not in the other one. You could try to maneuver to try to make it, but it doesn't make sense. It didn't make any sense because the mirrors weren't not connected. And I remember feeling weird about it, like just like in my mind, in my head about it. I will say we weren't sober, so these are thoughts that come from non-sobriety. It's birthday weekend. And I pulled my friend Donovan into the bathroom and asked him to just look into the space with me. And then from there, I was able to make sense of what was happening, what was in front of me, or what I was trying to learn that weekend. We can't ever see ourselves the way that other people see us. And I mean this in a literal sense. The only way you can ever see yourself is through a camera lens or through a mirror, through something that is a reflection. And that's a little sad. And I'll explain why in a second. But then the same is true for other people, right? They'll never be able to see themselves the way that you see them. And there are so many ways that I was just looking around at my friends that weekend. There was one point at which everybody was like in the pool, just lounging, looking up at the sky. And I was not, because the water was a little too chilly for me. But I was off in the corner and I was just like laying on a chaise and watching them and looking at them. And I just felt so much love for them because I see them in so many amazing ways. Like they're just an amazing group of people. And they don't get to see themselves the way that I see them. I can tell them, and that's a reflection, but they'll never be able to see it the way that I do. And vice versa. I'll never be able to see myself the way that they see me. And so I see people who are confident and kind and loving and generous and like all these things. And yet everyone was also going through, right, at some point in the year, going through something where they just didn't see themselves the way that I saw them. And I thought, wow, that's sad. And in addition to that, there's the internal side of things where I can never see myself the way that others see me or see myself outside of a reflection. But I know how I feel. And the difficulty is that no one else in the world will ever be able to feel the world the way that I feel it. And the same is true for other people. All these loved ones in my life who can't see all of the beauty that I see when I look at them, I also can't feel whatever it is they're feeling. And they can't feel what it is that I'm feeling. And we empathize and sympathize with each other. But there's a limit. There is a limit. And that was the thing that I kept coming to. It was like looking at the mirror and not being able to see the full reflection. And there's an impasse. And that's sad. That means that there's always disconnection. And yet, despite all of that, we strive and try so hard. And I don't mean so hard as like in a negative way, but like it's difficult because you have to do it constantly to be disconnected as a part of existence when all we really desire to do as social beings is be connected is difficult. And yet we try anyway, every single day. And that is beautiful. And sometimes we manage to find people who, even though they can't feel what we feel, and even though we can't see what they see, people with whom we feel safe and cherished and free to be whatever it is we are. Goofy, silly, spaced out, whatever it is that we are, we get to be that with these people, and that is beautiful. Love is beautiful and love is sad. There was an additional kind of aspect to this lesson, and it had to do with my romantic relationship. It was not specifically about it, but I wanted my partner to understand what it is that I was learning at that time. And because he couldn't see what I saw when I looked at him, and because I couldn't feel what he felt when I would say those things, right? When I would say everything that I just explained about connection and disconnection, the ways that he interpreted it, all of that, and the ways that I couldn't compel him to see that what he was feeling was not what I was trying to get at. I was trying to get at, like, there is beauty in all of this. It was that weekend, which I don't know, I want to show the aftermath because it wasn't good. I have some footage of not of what happened, but of myself. And I should say, once again, I'm saying none of this to villainize him. I have no resentment towards him. I still absolutely adore him and what we shared, which is very special. But it was not a great end to the birthday trip. That was July. August, I'm gonna speed through these because this is supposed to be a 25-minute video. August, I was talking to my therapist. Dexter and I eventually recovered from what happened in July. But I was talking to my therapist and getting really into the start of the semester. It was August, obviously. I had taught summer B, so I only had maybe, I think it was a 2-week or 1 week break in between the summer semester ending and fall semester starting. And I was, again, still trying to wrestle with time management in terms of being in between work and relationship and friends and all of that stuff. And Connie was like, well, what do you do when you wake up in the morning? I was like, well, I jump out of bed and I go to the gym. She's like, you can't start your day like that. Like, you have to have a routine that gets you ready to confront the day. And she said something that I thought was valuable. She said, we are not the creators of time, we only think we are. That was my lesson for August. And so I started a morning routine where I would wake up. My friends had got me a record player for my birthday, so I would put on some Sade or some John Batiste or somebody, something smooth, and take a minute to just appreciate being awake for the day. That was very helpful. September, building a team is crucial. With the new roles at work, it would be impossible for me to do the job without having a really good team of folks. And I'm so grateful that I have my program coordinator, Rebecca. I'm so grateful that we have an associate director, Will. I'm so glad for the student workers that we were able to find. These people have carried out visions that I've had, or have helped me to carry things out in ways that I could have never done alone. And I'm still not the kind of person who likes to delegate a lot of work to other people, but I'm learning that people have skill sets and talents and interests, and really the matter is finding ways to utilize them collectively as a team. So building a solid team, crucial. They have saved my life. October. I'm in therapy for real in October, and really wrestling with coming to terms with the fact that I have an avoidant attachment style. And my avoidant attachment style definitely stems from childhood and from being punished in a variety of ways, whether it was at home or in school or in the context of, relationships with my peers, being punished for expressing myself, whether that was expressing myself physically, creatively, verbally, intellectually. That was, and being raised in a oneness Pentecostal household. It was not household, but church, because my parents were not, though religious, they were not demanding in the ways that really conservative evangelical parents can be. So I developed an avoidant attachment style very young, and that comes with certain qualities that look like strengths. I didn't tend to ask a lot of questions. Instead, I went and learned things on my own. I tended to be very independent, and that looks good in a lot of ways. Like, I wanted to get my PhD before the age of 30. I was able to do that. I wanted to buy a home. I was able to do that by myself, right? No assistance from parents, no assistance. I was able to do those things, and also be okay being alone in my own company. And those traits have also in some ways made it difficult for romantic partners because of how much I distrust being able to be fully expressive. And this is where the masking comes back in, and not be punished for it. And I think that's why I value my friendship so much, which is a strength, because there's no fear that my friends would reject me. So the lesson was my avoidant attachment style masks behind a host of qualities that appear healthy on their faces. And of course, there's a double side to everything. So yeah, they're healthy in some ways, but they're not always expressed in the healthiest of ways. November. The line between intuition and fear can be razor thin, and this gets us all the way back to January's lesson and April's lesson, which was face your fears. Because here's what I struggled with, and this is, Connie once again helping me, but also not helping me. Because she's like, you gotta learn, after we had gotten through October and avoidant attachment style and working through childhood stuff, she's like, David, you've been walking on eggshells your entire life. That is not sustainable. So she's trying to get me to trust my intuition. And she said there's a difference between your gut and your head. You feel it in your gut. So that's when you know. And I was like, Connie, I hear you, but you also feel fear in your gut. And that's been my issue, is I started to intuit that there were really difficult conversations that needed to be had. And I also started to fear that the relationship, and this is November's lesson, so this happens right before the breakup. So I'm afraid that we've gotten to an impasse in the relationship, and my intuition is telling me that it's not going to work without, and this was my thing. I was like, we need therapy together. The problem is we never made it. But it was is it my intuition or is it my fear? Is it stuff up here in my head or is it down here in my gut? And I can't discern between the two of those things. And I still haven't discerned. That's why the lesson isn't, this is how you discern between intuition and fear. It's just that I learned that there's a very thin line between the two of them. And I'm still trying to learn how to recognize it. December's lesson And it is definitely a reflection on feeling at this point disconnected and finally in mourning. I can't fix everything. Trying to manage broken glass without the right tools may feel proactive, but I just end up with more cuts and scars. And that lesson is going to help me mourn. And mourning will help me heal. I've been avoiding mourning as I try to continue to fix the things that are broken. Because I don't want to mourn, and I don't want the things that are broken to be broken. There are choices here that I didn't make. There are choices that I did make. There are choices that I didn't make. And now I am here. So that is how December 2024, that's how the year 2024 is ending for me. It started in a difficult way and it's ending in a very difficult way. Where do we go now? I don't know. But 2025 is on the way. By the time this video is published, it will be here. And I did write down my wishes for the year. And so I will end this video with those. I wish that I really do find better ways to balance the various pulls on my life in a way that is healthy for me and that shows care for others. I wish also that I continue to learn more about my avoidant attachment style, because despite all of the difficulty of this year in the relationship, learning about it made me a much more open person and someone who is much more willing than I have ever been in my life to fall into love, to be abandoned in love, and to abandon my fears about it. And that is also part of my wish, is to have my person. I've been saying this since the beginning of January or the end of 2023. I want my person. I'm getting close to 40. I'm getting close to 40. So I know what I want. When people ask me, and Ray, this is part of the wish list, when people ask me like, what is the most important thing to you in a partner? What kind of person? Like, what's your type? They always expect me to say something physical, but I'm not really a physical, like I want to be attracted to you, but I can be attracted to a host of looks. The very first thing that defines my type is a kind person. I want someone who's kind, because I don't ask for a lot in a relationship. I don't ask for a lot of physical stuff, material stuff. That's something that I grew up with from childhood. I didn't come from a family with a lot of means, and I always felt a little guilty asking for stuff, so I didn't. But I know what it feels like to be loved, because my parents were very loving, and lovingness requires kindness. And with that, I will close this video, but I will say one more thing. There's stuff coming up. I have more, I've months of footage recorded and things that have happened. So stay tuned for chapter 8 and the succeeding vlog chapters. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, maybe share the video with someone who could use some time to reflect on their own year. This vlogging thing is still new to me, it's still a challenge. I still feel uncomfortable putting any of this up, but it does help when I see that people are watching and pushing the like button, and I get a new subscriber here or there. And I don't know, maybe one day this will help someone. And if it doesn't, maybe it helps me. But I'm out. Happy New Year. Even if it's not a happy one yet, let's hope together, let's wish together that it gets happier. I am going to, I know, have some good days and some not so great days. But the good will start to outnumber the bad. The joy will start to overcome the mourning, and eventually I'll be in a different place. So thanks for being on this journey with me, and I'll see you in chapter 8.
This ain't no acrobatics. You either follow or you lead. Yeah, I'm talking about you. I'll keep on moving the machine now.
Hey, do you remember at the end of Aladdin, the original Disney movie, and it was like the credits are about to come, and then all of a sudden the genie turns around and he's the other side of the moon, and he makes a joke and a laugh and then pulls on the screen. I feel like that's what I'm doing right now. The video was over, but I'm back. Obviously, it's a different day. I'm dressed differently, but I do have an update, and although this video was already ready to be published on January 1, this update has come before January 1, and it's relevant to the video, so I thought I'd just pop in here real fast and let you know what is going on. So Dexter and I decided that we're gonna go see a couple's... I'm making croissants. We decided we're gonna see a couple's therapist, couples counselor, that person, and hopefully they will be able to help us figure out how we can communicate with each other in a way that makes sense for both of us. It's something that we both want, something that we both hope for, and something that we're both willing to fight for. So we are hoping for the best for us in 2025, and we'll see where it goes. But keep watching, because the story is going to continue. Bye. You got to tip on the tightrope.